Hello there. Today we're going to look at two unique kinds of factoring. One is using perfect square trinomials, which we have here on the left-hand side. And another is using difference of squares, which we have here on the right-hand side. These two methods are actually unique in that they pretty much require us to use a single formula and pretty much identifying the kind of thing that follows that particular formula, and then we're good to go. So let me show you exactly what I mean. Let's take the simplest perfect square trinomial. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually start with the factored form. We're going to work towards the expanded form, and then I'm going to show you how to kind of move back and forth. Okay? With respect to the perfect square trinomials, let's just start with the easiest one I can think of, which is a plus b squared. Right, so this is our nice, easy, perfect square trinomial. How do we expand on this? Well, this is equal to a plus b in brackets, and then a minus b also in brackets. And this is just, a plus b in brackets, right? Because we have a plus b here, and we're squaring it. So if you take a look right here, we have a plus b, and we're squaring it. So we have a plus b over here and a plus b over there. Oops. So how do we continue from here? Well, it's super straightforward. We have to do our foiling, right? Now, how do we FOIL? Let me just move this down for you a little bit so I can draw on it. Just a little lower right there. And so all we need to do is we multiply the first two, the second two, and I'm actually going to use this green color for this, and I'll show you why in a second. The inner two, and of course the outer two. And let's go ahead and multiply these out. So right here we've got a and a, so that's obviously a squared. We've got then right here we have a, and then we have this a. We have this a and this b, and then this b and this a. So we basically have two components of a, b when we factor this out, right? So let's quickly do that. And then the final part is the b right here times this b right here, which is just plus b squared. 1 second. We'll make that in black so you can see it a bit better. And putting this all together, right, we get a simple calculation of a squared. Now, AB plus AB is actually plus 2AB. And then at the end, we have a plus B squared. Right? And so this is exactly the first perfect square trinomial formula we have. A plus B squared equals A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. And you can see that here we have A plus B squared, and here we have A squared plus 2AB plus B squared. So this is very important. And you can memorize this as pretty much a formula because you're always going to need to know how to go this way, which is what we just did, but also how to go backwards. So you basically need to be able to alternate between the factored version and the expanded version. So now I'm not going to go through the exact same calculation, but we do the same thing. And if we were to actually use a minus b squared instead, we would actually end up with a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Right? So right here, we've got pretty much two different formulas. We've got this formula and we've got this formula, right? And these are the two formulas that you're going to need to memorize because you're going to be asked many times to identify perfect square trinomials and just factor in the sense. And we're going to go through a couple examples of these in the next slide, but this is just your sort of introduction, right? More times, yes than no. You will be asked to maybe go from this form down here to the form at the top up here. So it's going to be really good to sort of recognize your perfect square numbers because it's going to be easy to go back and forth between perfect square trinomials. I want to move on now to difference of squares. So what I will do is I'm going to move my video off to the other side. So just give me 1 second. We're going to move the video off to the other side. Okay. And this will allow me to move on with the recording. And now my video is no longer in the way, and you can clearly see what I'm doing for difference of squares. So for difference of squares, we're going to use a very similar technique, right? But for difference of squares, we're actually going to go the other way. We're going to go this way. We're going to use the expanded form and build towards the factored form, right? So here's my expanded form that I want you guys to pick up on. A squared, oops. Let's write that a little neater here. Minus b squared, right? And now a and b, in both of these cases, are just any two numbers, right? So we have a squared, and we're going to be subtracting from it b squared. So what does this end up as? Well, why don't we look at this in a technical way? If we actually were to expand this out, we would get the following. We would get a plus b, a minus b, right? And we know this because if we actually tried to do this, we would get the same situation as we had over here, where we would do a times a, which is a squared, okay? I'm going to skip the other stuff for a second, and you're going to know why in a second. But if we get to the last terms pretty quickly and make a jump, we would get b times b, which is b squared. But if you look at these green terms, right, over here, we would actually end up doing a, b, and we would do this ab, right? But one of these green terms has a minus sign, and the other one does not, right? So the first AB would have a plus sign, but the second AB, which is this middle term here, the inside terms, they don't actually have a plus sign. So because we have plus AB, right, and then we have minus AB, both of these terms actually cancel out, and we get nothing in the middle, right? But we know that the b squared had this negative sign attached to it right here. So it's a squared minus b squared, and this line over here is the same as this line up here, right? So in summary, you're going to need to know all of these formulas. I'm going to highlight them for you right here. Oops, we don't want to open Word. We're going to need to know this, that a squared plus b squared is equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. We're going to need to know that a minus b squared is a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. And we're further going to need to know that a squared minus b squared is what you get when you have a plus b and a minus b. And again, knowing how to go from the factored version to the expanded version, right? So we have the factored, we have the expanded. Going from these versions is going to be super important. And here as well, you know, factored and expanded. Right? And you can easily tell which one is which. You're going to need to know how to go back and forth in both of these cases. So we're going to do a bunch of examples in the next few slides to show you what this looks like when a and b are actual numbers. All right, let's move on to the PowerPoint slides.